You dressed up for me. I like that.
I did.
That's fantastic.
I did.
So,
it's a very special place, special guy.
This is not what you would be wearing in your studio painting.
No.
Right? Which is what I'm taking you away from, right?
Sort of.
Yeah, I am. I know you are.
I've had some family here recently, so I've been not painting.
Yeah.
9 days of not painting, and I need
That's
to get.
A long time.
It's a long stretch. So I'm getting a little antsy because I've had a good week with my gallery, and I need to think about some new ideas.
And so a good week means sales?
Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is Wildmeyer?
Wildmeyer, yes. They have been wonderful. So,
yeah, that's a really good fit for you, I think.
A very good fit. It's a contemporary gallery. It has wonderful contemporary, all kinds of different contemporary art. And I'm more on the fence of kind of traditional and fun and playful. And not, it's not really contemporary, but it just, for some reason, it just sits right there really nicely.
It has that sense, you know, especially with the thick paint that you do. And you know, it's very gestural.
And the animal theme. They have a lot of animal themed art. Yeah. They do a lot with charities. They just did it was a dog food or cat food fundraiser. And I sold a really beautiful coyote piece for that. So it's been 22 years of just a great, healthy, fantastic relationship that has really kept me, painting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know it had been that long.
2001. I started out with these little itty bitty.
She's showing, if people aren't watching these on YouTube, her
really
hands are
small.
Like the size of
the 5x5 was what I started. I started in 2001. I was working for Gallery Americana in Carmel, and was just painting for fun on the side. I loved selling art. I did it for 10 years, and I really enjoyed my job. It was just being surrounded by beautiful things all the time, and talking to people, and just selling art, making money, doing something that's fun and enjoyable, and watching people just be thrilled with their purchase was wonderful. But on the side, I was living in California, out in the country near Bay Area and rolling hills, and all these little hobby farms and wonderful farms with geese and chickens and cows and donkeys. So I did these little scenes, and they were very realistic. I did not have a painting background. It wasn't, I didn't go to art school. So, but I could draw pretty good. I've always been able to draw.
In fact, let's start right there, because
start with it's a long story.
Well, that's okay. but because, I have this feeling you could always draw even as a little kid.
I started drawing when I was 9 months old.
Really?
A little picture of a worm I did.
Wow.
I still have it somewhere. I started drawing really. I could pick up a crayon and I did little cars. I was fascinated with cars and trucks. It wasn't your typical girl baby. I was more of a tomboy. So I did lots of cars and trucks. And then as I got older, I became obsessed with horses, like a lot of young women. And I do a lot. Horse after horse after horse, especially race horses like Secretariat and Ruffian, Aladar and stuff like that. So that's where my drawing background was, just the obsession with horses and animals in general.
And did your folks recognize that right off the bat?
Yeah. Well, that and they were very, very supportive of. They were both artistic people. Although my father was an insurance salesman, they were very artistic, and they really supported any of us girls doing anything in the arts. And I had proclivity for both music and art as a child. So I was pushed in piano and viola, and then I took a drawing class in junior high. I was placed in an advanced drawing class in junior high, and that was really exciting because they could see I could draw, and I did some portraiture and things like that and animals. But
and was that the school that recognized that?
The high school, junior high school. That's when I started really doing the classes. But shortly after that, I started to sing, and that really took over everything. I was in the music and choir, and got a scholarship to the University of Minnesota for opera. So that's my background. That's my training in college. The college years was all singing. I was a music, 100% music in a music setting in the University of Minnesota. So the art went to the side.
Yeah, and you thought you were going to be an opera singer?
Well, I was in that direction. I was in an opera program, but then I started singing in local bands in Minneapolis. Right. And it was 1982, 83, and I was young, and the rock and roll and the whole, the temptation of all the fun that goes with that. So I kind of fell into that scene, but it was, I did that for about 5 years. And
you mean sing in bands and things?
Sing in bands.
As you were still going through college?
Yeah, I dropped out.
Yeah. Well, that happens, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But so you went to college for a few years in the music
and then
department.
I dropped out and I sang for about 5 years. I was in a series of bands, mostly kind of blues rock and R&B. Minneapolis has a very big R&B scene, especially in the 80s with Prince. And then I fell into an R&B band that went overseas. I did a USO for the military. I went over to Greece and Italy and Spain and Bahrain and toured that. And that was really an experience. It was wonderful. And then when I came back from Europe, I was kind of burnt out. It's every night, 9 to 1 bars, smoky bars. Yeah. And it was really, really playing on my voice. So I quit and moved to Jackson Hole. And then I was like, I want to be a painter now. I want to be a poet. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to go west.
Were you from Minneapolis?
I'm from St. Paul.
You're from St. Paul.
Yeah, born and raised. And I moved to Jackson Hole in 1987 with my younger sister, Mary.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have 3 sisters who were all just here. It was a blast.
Yeah. So all of them came for this. I met the one, but.
Yeah, you met Anne. I have a younger sister, Marta, who lives in Texas. And then my baby sister, Mary, who's a publisher. Retired publisher. She's in Jackson Hole still. So yeah.
So you got burned out.
I got burned out, and I really wanted to kind of go back to the art.
And so at that time, you're like maybe
27, 28.
Yeah, okay.
And I was in Jackson.
So you've seen some stuff.
Some stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
You've made enough money to live as a singer, right?
It was hard. It wasn't very good money. That's another reason. It was like waitressing money. It was about that kind of money, and to have to perform Monday through Sunday.
Right.
Yeah, it just does a number on your health.
Yeah, and you started to realize, okay,
I'm not a person that likes to sleep in. I'm a morning person, and when you're up till 2-3 a.m., you get up at noon and you feel like crap.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go to Jackson, and I wanted to try something else. I wanted to, meet.
Why Jackson?
We grew up camping there. My dad would haul us out there with our tent trailer in the 60s and 70s almost every summer.
Right.
We go from St. Paul we go up through Cody, and then we go down to Yellowstone, and then we go to Jackson, and then down to Denver and come back. And we did that over and over. So my father fell madly in love with the Tetons, and his goal was to retire there after, so many years and buy a home. And he did that. He did. He moved. My parents moved there in 1992. They bought a home in Rafter J, south of Jackson, and they just thrived there. They loved it. Wow. They loved it. So we started, that became our home. So Jackson's kind of still my heart home. It's still, I love Arizona and I love where I am here, but it still just pulls at my heart. I still just, it feels like the center of the universe to me. It does.
Well, it is probably.
Yeah.
It clearly was for your family.
Yeah. My father loved, and they're both passed now. And I don't get to go there as often as I used to because it's so now.
Yeah, right.
Oh God.
So when you moved out there, were they living there, or were you?
No, we were laying the groundwork for them.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
My sister found a house for my dad in Wilson, and he bought that back in the 80s, and then sold it and was able to move into Rafter J, and through some really smart, shrewd real estate moves. Yeah. Really, thank you, Dad. Right. I have a beautiful home in Oro Valley now, thanks to that. So,
wow. Parents can do that for you.
They can.
They can do other things too, depending on the lot you get. But so you're in Jackson Hole. You're 27, 28.
Yeah, 28.
And so
29.
Right, and you've got to make a living. Or, you got to pay the bills. So what do you do?
I just did secretarial work for a while. I did legal secretarial work for a while, and
were you drawing or doing any of that kind of stuff?
When I first. This is a long story. Well, it's not
okay. We got all the time we want.
When I first moved to Jackson, the summer of '87, I met Bill Freeman,
the
artist Bill Freeman, at a birthday party for him. My sister and I had seen an ad in the paper for a couple that lived in Skyline Ranch that had a couple of horses, and she called him up and said, "Can we ride your horses?" And it was Frank and Marty DeWitt, lovely people. And they invited us said, "Sure, you can come ride anytime." So we were riding their horses, and it was wonderful, very Western. And they knew Bill, and Bill had a birthday. I think it was his 60th 60th birthday party, and they invited me. And I met Bill, and we talked about, he told me about the pots and the painting and all this wonderful, going up to Yellowstone and to take pictures of buffalo, and would I like to join him? And I said, yes, I would love to. So I met Bill, and we became fast friends, and he became a mentor of mine. And then the day after I met Bill, or a couple of days later, we went hiking in Jenny Lake, and he had Carol Swinney, the artist Carol Swinney, with him. So I met Carol back then in 87, and we became fast friends.
Yeah, she's
although
wonderful. She
wasn't really painting at that time either. We were just more like hiking buddies. So that's where it all got started.
And did he kind of just spark something in you and go,
yeah,
okay,
he sparked,
art is where I need to be?
He did. He was encouraging. I wasn't really doing much, but just making little pots, and I'd go out and plein air with him, and I had never painted with paints. I'd just drawn.
Right.
So, and he had a palette knife, and a palette knife I'm left-handed, so it really didn't lend itself to which became my style later on. I was just hacking away. I really didn't know what I was doing, and it was just for fun, and I didn't take it seriously for a long time. It was just something I did with my friends, and I started to meet a lot of well-known artists through him who were very talented, so I was able to watch them work. And different landscape, still life, whatever, Western paintings of horses.
And you'd go out with him and
I'd
paint?
go out with him and paint, and then ultimately he, I wasn't working that much. I was just working part-time, and he got me into working when I was visiting him down in Scottsdale to work with Dan May, the May Gallery. And this was about 4 years after Jackson. I left Jackson temporarily to come down to Phoenix and live in Phoenix and kind of mentor under Bill. So I was mentoring under Bill, and then I was working in the art galleries at the same time.
And that was May Gallery?
That was May Gallery. It was my first sales job, and I absolutely loved it. I said, this is it. This is where I want to be.
What did you love about it?
I just felt like I was home.
Was it because of the art or the artist?
It was everything.
Yeah.
It was the whole ball of wax.
Yeah, okay.
It was just, I just felt this is home. This is this field, wherever I wind up, this is where I will spend the rest of my life. It was just an instant connection. Oh. And I was...
Were you 30 yet?
I was 32.
Yeah, okay.
I was 32. And I worked for Dan for about 2 or 3 years. Then I got married and moved to the Bay Area. And I just, I was still just working in galleries and painting, taking little painting classes for fun. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I did.
You were doing sales and galleries.
I was doing sales, and I did that I had a part-time job in Jackson in a gallery, but it was just data entry. But I did sales for about 8, 9, 10 years. And that led me up to early 2000s when I got divorced from my husband. And
but when you were in San Francisco, you were still you did sales that whole time?
I was working for Gallery Americana, which was Trailside.
Yes.
It had been Trailside, and they sold it to Gallery Americana, and it was a great big gallery. It was on 6th and Lincoln, and it had just multiple rooms, and we had some wonderful, wonderful art in there. They let the salespeople kind of run the show, and it was just a really great job. So I really enjoyed that. We had a lot of more traditional art in there, like a lot of beautiful still lifes, and Alexander Titovitz, I remember we sold his. Ken Oster, we took him on, and he was just starting to explode at that time. He had those wonderful genre scenes of roller coasters and the beach and people surfing, and that was kind of an amazing job. And after that, I got divorced, and I went back to Wyoming, back to Jackson Hole, stayed with my parents for a while, and that's when I started to digress a little bit, this is how I really started painting. My last year with Gallery Americana, we linked up. This is when the web was starting to really catch on with art, and we had a Sotheby's website. This was in 2001, and we had a lot of inventory in the basement of Gallery Americana that was just sitting there. Andre Ballion, and I'm trying to think of some of the artists we had, but there was just piles of art. And so maybe we'll just put it on the Sotheby's website and see if we can move some of this art. Right. And this was just when it was starting auctions.
I remember when they did that.
Yeah, the Sotheby's. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was doing these, like I was telling you, these little square scenes in these little square frames of scenes around Hollister where I was living. And one of the salespeople said, well, why don't we slip some of your paintings on there and see how they do? Yeah. Kind of an experiment. And there was bidding war after bidding war for my little paintings. So I kind of thought, maybe I have something here. Maybe I can. Right.
There's some path.
There's a path here. Maybe I can be an artist too, And that's how I started getting encouraged to do it full time.
And that was right at 2000?
2001. 2001, and then I started to take it really seriously.
And so was it really just the sales that gave you the confidence that you go, yeah, there is a path? I mean,
no, I just really loved doing it.
Yeah. So it had been building.
Yeah, it was building. It was something, and it was kind of like this huge, like a volcano coming up in me of wanting to spew something out. Being an artist, it's a voice, it's a language.
Yeah, it is.
And when I started, I was just starting to learn little bits of that language. And I knew it was going to be animals. And I'd done horses as a kid, but everybody does horses. So I didn't want to go that route. And when I first started doing those little tiny cow portraits, I couldn't sell them fast enough.
Yeah. Those were the Herefers with the white faces.
Yeah. Kinda. Yeah. And then I did the little geese and the little chickens, and it just caught on from there. And
I love those little chickens.
The little chickens. I don't do chickens much anymore.
Those little chicks.
Yeah, I have some little chicks right now.
I saw some
I
of
do.
those.
I do
They
have
are
little
cute.
chicks. Yes, they're very cute. Yes, they are. So that's kind of how it got started.
So when you realized, okay, this is it, I'm going to try to make a go of it. How did you attack that?
Well, I had, luckily, from my dissolution of my marriage, I had some money, enough for about a year to just paint full time. So I really got down to pretty much painting every day, and started. I had my work. I was in Jackson Hole. I had my work, and I was working part time in Martin Harris Gallery, and I had my pieces in there, and then I had some pieces in Gallery West. And they were selling. So I wanted to, slowly move out of selling art into being a full-time artist. But, these are little guys, so I wasn't making a lot of money or anything like that.
Do you think having that sales background gave you an advantage to try to break into the market?
Yeah, because when I worked at Gallery Americana, we had a lot of artists. They would just walk off the street. Yeah. You know how it goes.
I do.
You've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
And I would see that the ones that came in that had maybe 4 or 5 paintings that were maybe themed together. They maybe had some kind of consistency of theme or of subject matter. And they were nicely framed. They weren't garish. They were just nicely framed. They were ready to hang. And their price point was good. And you could see they were good artists. I saw that that's what the galleries wanted to see. I mean, if you walked in with something, you could basically just get in the gallery that day if you were good enough, versus people with these big giant portfolios of old paintings, or they'll come in with something really big and ugly and it's $20,000 or something,
Right.
So I was able to learn there were certain things galleries dealers look for in an artist, and that I think it really helped me. I think it was a
I would think
big part of my development as an artist was the experience. And I do teach sometimes, and I tell fledgling artists or young artists or people with talent, who said, if you can, just get a job for a while in a gallery for a year or two and see how it goes. See how that gallery world operates. It's not just all, really beautiful, fabulous, everything's wonderful. It's a business.
Right.
It's not, you're not so precious and special if you're really talented. It's, good for you. There's a billion people out there that are really good.
Right.
But you have to have a product.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be well priced. It has to be good quality. It has to be something people want. They see it and they want it. It's a business.
Yeah. No, it is. And I think sometimes people forget that. That doesn't mean that you can't create and have a vision and be fulfilled.
Oh yeah, that's right. The vision is, and that's one thing I've always, that's never left me, that vision, that need to keep doing it. It's just, it's still there.
Right.
As I grow older.
But how do you do that and then make it where you can do it? And
that's the hard part. Yeah. And I had some lucky breaks early on, and that.
Yeah. What do you think those were?
Well, Stuart Johnson getting into Settlers West. Mm-hmm. And then my first time in Mountain Oyster, I won the Purchase Award. Mm-hmm. And they put that in Southwest Art and called me an emerging artist.
I remember when that happened.
Big picture.
Yeah.
And boy,
but I wouldn't call that a lucky break. I would call that a well-earned
accolade.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That just doesn't happen out of luck.
I see. That's where I need that reinforcement. I just don't know. I just, but yes, early on. And then I was artist to collect. I was also featured as a wildlife bear painter in Southwest Art. So I had about, this is a long time ago. I had some really, really nice smaller features in Southwest Art that really kind of broke it open for me. And a lot of people started contacting me, and especially women wanting to learn how to paint like me, which I don't teach that, but that was real successful for me about 15 years ago. But now I'm sort of like moving out of the teaching, and I just want to paint. I just want to kind of explore and just sort of, there's so much to paint. There's not enough lifetime.
Right.
You could live 500 years and not do it all.
Right.
It's not fair.
Well, it's what we got.
It's what we got.
It's our role.
And you see all these fabulous artists, and you think if they only lived longer, what more would they have? Where would they have evolved to?
Yeah, no, it's true.
That's what's so.
That's why you got to take every day as that's your last day.
Yeah.
And use it wisely.
Right.
Because it might be.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Yeah, with this world.
Any world. We're human, we're Homo sapiens, and we die. We die all the time.
Well, yeah, we do die. We do die.
Yeah, it's normal. But you have to take it. If you realize that, then you can really focus on each day as being important.
Yeah.
And, as an artist, each day you have the potential to create and leave something behind.
Yeah.
Other people may not have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely want to just keep painting. Until I take my last breath, And with art, I see people in their 80s, late 80s, and they're at the top of their game.
Yeah.
If you can keep your health, and your hands are still strong, and you can still see well, and you can still, do it with vigor, and you don't know their age. Right. You just don't know. That's one thing I love about this job.
Yeah.
No, nobody knows how old you are.
Right.
So
and you're right. You can get better.
You can.
And I do see it. One of the best paintings that I've seen Ed Mel do, and I've represented him for almost 30 years, was this last year. I was like, my God.
Yeah. And
it's like breaking through another barrier.
Right.
I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I know. So that's one thing that I find I have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to retire at 60 something and get a gold watch and just sit on the front porch, like
artists
a lot of
just
people
don't retire. Really.
No, I think that's one thing I just love about this job. You have a future. You can look forward to something. Right. You can look forward to that next painting, and that's the thing that keeps me going. And it just could just be anything. It could be a painting I saw here, or an image of an animal, or a title or a book or anything that I can make a narrative to get inspired to do something new.
And do you paint every day, pretty much?
I paint. I'm kind of a Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
I take the weekends off.
Yeah.
But pretty much, and I don't paint all day. I'm not that kind of a painter. I'm more of an intuitive, spontaneous. I have my energy kind of goes in peaks and valleys. I'm kind of a high-strung person, so I'm not level all day. And I try to paint when I'm a morning person, so I definitely paint in the morning. And I just kind of go in one burst.
Right, and then you need to reboot.
And then I have to reboot, because if I work and when I'm going down in my energy, if I keep doing that, I'll start overworking things, or I'll start overpainting, or I'll start putting too much paint on the surface, and then things start to bog down. And my work, I think, has been most successful if it's really fresh. If it's just because my style of painting is just this chunks of color put down pretty economically. I don't do that. I don't.
My guess is that at night you recalibrate.
I do.
You get all the.
I watch TV.
You get all the stimulus out though when you sleep.
That
you've had the day before, and then you wake up fresh without all that stimulus that's been there, and you can get going just start cranking. And then I have a feeling once it gets to a point where you've had so much stimulus coming in for a period of time painting, then you need the break.
Yeah, that's exactly. And it's about anywhere from 2 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
That's it. And then I'll go back maybe between 4 and 6.
Yeah.
That's kind of my around dinner time, and maybe do some tweaking or do some maybe some additional work, but the bulk of my work has been created in the morning.
Yeah. I think it's very important, not only for artists, but anybody, whatever they do, if they can figure out their rhythms and who they are and their sensitivity to the world, that if they can figure out those things that make them be able to function ideally and at a premium, it's a really healthy thing.
It is a healthy thing.
Yeah.
If you can
you'll do better too.
Yeah, and as I get older, I definitely see where I work best, when I, most successful, and when not to work. When not to work. Don't work if you don't feel well, or that sort of thing, or having a hard time. I don't know. When I have a hard time, painting is therapy. It just makes me feel good, no matter what. What a great thing to have a job that makes you feel good. Oh, I pinch myself. Yeah. I pinch myself, because I wasn't planning on being an artist, years ago. It wasn't in my scope. I wasn't in my,
And why do you think that is?
Oh, I don't know. I just, like most women, I thought I was going to get married and have, a bunch of babies and do the female thing, the more traditional roles. But I know I was born to be an artist of some sort, I'm just artistic.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed. I've been blessed with both music and art, and feel fortunate that I've been able to experience both of those fields, and it made me happy. It makes me very happy.
And able to do it too.
But the art as a business has consumed me, because it's just it has been really fun. It's been a roller coaster ride. It doesn't always pay well, but boy, there's always rewards, always. The people I've met, that's the best part. Wonderful, wonderful friends and experiences, and going on trips and painting trips and workshops and great shows. I've been in some of the best shows in the country over my 20 years, and it's just been I've really lucky, really fun. It's great. I feel really fortunate.
And so you've done it now for 21
years.
21 years.
Yeah.
So what do you think you've learned? What are the lessons that you could pass on to others that might start a little later in life? Though I wouldn't consider yours later in life.
A lot of artists start later, and they
start at 50 or 60.
Yeah, I started at 42.
Yeah, and that's very doable. I think extremely doable.
And I know other artists that have started in their 40s and 50s. So and I've seen artists, people come into my workshops, women in their 70s who are are in that. And it's gentleman last month he was in his 70s. He was really good, So
yeah, but even at 42, let's face it, you were still around the art world, in the art world, learning art, talking to dealers and artists, selling art,
right?
From basically since you're a little kid.
Yeah.
So you can say 21 years,
but it's maybe probably more like 35.
Yes, that's right.
More like that. Yeah, that's because I don't think of it that way. It's been more, because if you go back, I started in '89 in Jack Dennis. He had a little gallery upstairs. He was a fly fisherman guy with a big retail outfit, and he had a little gallery upstairs. And Kay Northup worked up there, and Scott Christensen was our first. He was only in his 20s, and we started taking his work on. And this was in '89. So, and I was just doing the data entry for the gallery. But so it goes back that far.
Yeah.
So that's 30 some, almost 40 years. Oh my God.
Yeah, no. So that's the thing. Yeah. You really have been doing this for most of your life.
If I could say, if there's one thing I have learned is that there is a lot of disappointment and rejection.
Yeah, there is.
A ton.
Yeah.
Even when you get higher up, it just still it continues to be there. And that's the one thing I would tell people: just be prepared for that rejection and just let it roll off your back.
Right.
Because with every rejection, there's a little victory. And it's those little victories that just keep me going. And the victories can be anything from having a painting, like you fail at a painting and then you get one that works. And it's a high. And it can just be a brush stroke, or could be a play of colors. My work has nuances in it, and it could just be the play of colors in an animal or something that just makes you want to live.
Yeah.
It is. It's just it just I can't really describe, but it's a high.
Yeah.
But just let the rejection, because you never know what people out there, when they judge your work, what they want.
Right.
It's you're thinking on one side, they're over here and thinking something else.
But it is hard, especially if it's somebody that maybe you really respect. And
it can be devastating.
Yeah, I would think so.
I remember the first time I did Cowgirl Up, I was in 2009, and my parents flew in from Jackson, and I get the dress and the hat, and it was so exciting. I mean, it's the best women painter in the country, and I got invited, and I had done these paintings of cows and donkeys, and I got really great feedback, and I was really excited, and I didn't sell anything the opening night. I was just crushed.
Yeah, I bet.
I went to bed. I didn't sleep all night. I felt like I was going to throw up. It's just, this was a long time ago. So, I've gotten over that from, this point on. But I remember how hard that was. And the next day I did a quick draw, and it did really well. And then all was well with the world, so you get over it pretty fast.
Well, and I bet if you could have retrospectively been that person and that happened, and you took off your artist hat and put back on your sales hat, and you would go, oh yeah, I see this all the time. Doesn't mean jack, right?
But I know I had my artist hat on that weekend.
But you do. That's the thing, right? And you're like taking it very internally and personal.
I took it personal. Yeah. And so early on, my first time with Stuart Johnson, I didn't sell, and I thought, I'll never get asked to ask me. I've been in that show 17 straight years.
That's great.
So you can't take it too seriously or personally. You just have to keep painting.
Yeah.
You keep painting. If you stop doing that, then you are going to have problems.
Yeah, you have to. It has to come from the gut.
And comes from my gut, definitely.
Yeah, and you have to just follow that, regardless of what people say or do or whatever. And if you're getting that joy and that creativity, that's a lot of it. Granted, sales, you have to have sales to survive as an artist, but if you're getting that complete, utter joy when you hit it on that something,
there's just something.
Worked.
Yeah, it can be just the smallest thing.
Yeah, no, I get it, but it's all about the small things.
It's all about the little things. Yeah,
right? And enough to know when you did do it right, and then you're trying to figure out, how did I do it right?
Right.
What was it that made it?
And what was it that time that was successful?
Yes.
And that's another trap, is if you have something that has worked, and not to keep doing the same thing over and over again. I have been pigeonholed somewhat, with the cows and the, and the galleries, please paint more of the same thing.
Right.
And I support myself with my art earnings. So I tend to do repeat some things subject matter wise.
Right.
But you have to. There is with the little things, there are little pitfalls and traps too.
Well, the other component I'd like to just discuss a little bit, because you have a unique part in this world of art, is that you've been on the sales for a long time, and you've been on the art end for a long time. So how do you see women artists in that role? Is there a difference that they have to overcome versus being?
Yeah, it's really hard. And, I've been in a lot of really wonderful groups. I was a signature member of American Women Artists for many years. I've been in Women Artists of the West. I'm currently with Cowgirl Artists of America. And I strongly recommend these groups for women who are starting out, the younger women. I'm not needing the groups as much anymore, but I really recommend to get in these groups and try to do your best work. But, some of these women's groups, and, they're wonderful groups, they tend to have the subject matters a little bit more feminine. And I think women, if they want to really, go to bat with the big boys, try to just get out there and really go for it and do something new, and really try to explore, what you can do as an artist. And that might be really exciting, and kind of get away from the female still lifes or something, something more, a little bit more masculine. Yeah. I have said that before, and I just think, it's a tough road. What is it, 10% of museums is just, it's all men and blah, blah, blah. I've been heard it a million times. Right. And it's something that's going to take years. But women, there's some really exciting women artists. Right now there's, you've got Whitney Gardner, who's doing beautiful things with the desert, and Mamie Brown. These are women who live out near Palm Springs, and it's beautiful desert out there.
Yeah,
and
they do, both of them.
I'm seeing some incredible pieces from both of them. Harper Henry does this incredible animals with the abstract background. Peggy Judy, Michelle Condos, Stephanie Campos and her charcoal drawings. Those are gorgeous. Elizabeth Sage does great cowboy paintings.
Jill Carver, one of the greatest.
She does a beautiful, really chunky landscapes. I mean, there's some powerful women painters, and they just need to really just take an aggressive stance and just get out there and just try to do it with the big boys. And
yeah, so you felt it over the years.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
and it's kind of sucks that we don't get the big money, right. But maybe someday, I don't know, we'll see what happens.
I think all of that is starting to find legs. There's biases that are there.
Yeah, you can't do anything about that.
Well, I think the only way you can get rid of biases is to bring them to attention. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't like me or prefer I don't bring these subjects up, but I think it's important to recognize that they're there. They're there in the people who buy. They're there in the people who are the dealers who show the work and all these things, and magazines, even all of it. So, and a lot of these are unintentional biases, but they're there. And
they're there.
But they're there. I mean, it's just it is. That's the way it is. So hopefully that will change over time. I think if people recognize that, this isn't just, made up. It's really, we need to look at all art. We need to do it like The Voice, really, quite honestly,
Oh, yeah.
Right? Don't look at the name.
Don't look at the name.
Right? And
I know women who have done that, who have, just put a first initial and then last name, so you don't know the sex.
Right. I'm sure you can maybe even thought about it.
I have done that. I have done it. Yeah. I mean, mostly it's Sarah J. Weber, but I had to do S.J. Weber too.
Yeah.
Because, it's hard to tell, without the signature, and there's just certain things women artists get kind of relegated to with subject matter and with shows, and you see some of these shows and they're beautiful, but there's not very many sales. Yeah. And that's been one of the tough things for me in these groups is I do the painting, I buy the frame, I get the smart box, I pay the fees, I pay the dues, I pay the shipping,
right.
And I've got $4,000 or $5,000 into it, and that just doesn't sell.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 to 10 paintings sell, and that's got to change.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to change. So I'd rather be in shows with men. I'll be honest. So.
Yeah, that's definitely got to change because you don't want that to be the statement that you have to do, right?
Well, it's just part of
but I understand
the way it goes.
I get it. I mean, I understand. So you do have to pay the bills.
There's a lot of women artists out there, a lot of men artists. I mean, there's just a lot of artists, and everybody's an artist, and so it's just kind of women need to pay attention to some of these things that will get them trapped or. Stereotyped or whatever.
Have you ever thought taking a bigger role in those kind of things as far as with clubs and stuff? Sometimes
I do, yeah.
Yeah. It's hard though. You can get negative feedback and all the stuff that can come with it.
I do like to, I have my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm opinionated, and I do like to. I like to mentor artists. I like to find new talent to women. I've brought some women artists to Stuart Johnson, like Julie Neiswanger, who's a really good cowboy painter, and some other younger painters. But yeah, I've been in this business a long time. I've learned a lot. Learned a lot about everything about the business. I've met a lot of well-known artists, a lot of your artists I've known very well through the years. And, so I know a lot of people.
Yeah,
well connected.
Well, that's that 35 years, right?
Yeah.
Forget the 21. It's really
the 21.
Yeah. For now, just go with what it really is, because you've been in the art business for 35 years.
Kind of been around the block.
Yeah. So, what do you have coming up? Show-wise?
I have a couple of things. I was recently juried into this Arizona Artists for Conservation. They have a brand new juried show up at the Phoenix Zoo's Savannah Gallery. It's part of their Art on the Wild Side program. And this is their first juried show. And they only picked 50 paintings, so I was honored to get into that. And there's some really nice painters in that show, wildlife painters. And I did a big painting of they do a lot of cropping with my work. I went up and photographed the flamingos and the African crown cranes up at the zoo back in February, and at 2 p.m. when there was no animals out. There was nothing. Right. They were all just gone. Just the birds were out. So all I got were pictures of flamingos and then the crown cranes. So I did a painting of pulled in the flamingos really close, and I just got the pattern of their, you know how their necks really arch, and just sort of followed the design of their necks and then their feathers, and it was backlit. So their feathers were all reflecting purples and blues. And then the beaks were the sort of the hot pink, and then the background I turned to a burgundy. So it's just, I've been going through kind of a pink and blue face, but it's just these wonderful kind of harmonies of burgundies, hot pinks, hot purples, cool pinks, and then the white feathers with some yellow backlit on it, and it's really pretty painting. So I'm glad they picked it. So I'll hopefully get to go to that opening.
And when is that?
September 8th.
Yeah.
And then I got I'm going to do a miniature show for a frame of reference at their Whitefish Gallery at Christmas time, and of course Mountain Oyster. And I do leave in the summer. I do just get out of the heat. So, and I don't usually paint during those 2 months. I just do plein air florals. I sit and paint in gardens and just do flower paintings. So I'm getting ready to do May is just like paint. Because I got to paint. I have a gallery, La Posada Resort in Santa Fe. Yeah. I've got to give them some new work. I'll be heading up to Santa Fe in a month, and then.
And will you paint kind of regionally for that area? Do you?
You know what? No. I mean, I just do the big animal paintings. Right now I've been really, really successful with geese painting the last 2 years. I do these 36 by 48 paintings of running geese, and I can't sell them fast enough. So, wow. So that's what they've been wanting, is they want what sells. So.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I mean, as a dealer,
they put them in their lobby, and it's a very eclectic mix up at La Posada. So,
beautiful hotel though.
Oh man, yeah, that old really Victorian haunted bar, Julia Staub bar. That's where my work has always been, in the Staub bar. And
that's cool. I'll be there this summer. At least have some enchilada
look for
plates.
A big painting of running geese.
I will. I'll take a picture of me in front of it.
There's actually 2 of them there.
Yeah. Assuming unless they're sold, I'll be there in August when they usually.
Hopefully they'll be gone by then, Mark.
They'll be gone by then, probably.
So that's where I'm headed. I'm headed to Santa Fe and Taos in June, and then up to Casper, and then over to Jackson Hole, and then I'll be back here in the middle of summer to paint for another 6 weeks, because I'm going to be going to Europe in September. So I need to catch up. I don't like to leave my studio for the whole summer. Will you paint in Europe? No. Just it's a girls trip. Yeah, okay. Girls trip. So now we'll be going into the bars of pints. We'll be throwing back pints. I'll bet you'd be taking photos of things. Yes, I will. Referencing. Yes. If I see little horses and sheep up in Scotland, there'll be hopefully lots of inspiration from that trip. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. You can't turn it off, right? I mean, it's never. It's my smartphone is. I mean, thank God they made the iPhones into such fantastic cameras. I am just a junkie for photographs. I mean, I am. Just got back from Monument Valley with my sister, and it was just like snap. You just can't stop. And will you do landscapes as well? No. It's all. I either paint animals or florals. I suck at landscapes. It's just something I don't have a sixth sense for. I don't have the editing ability. I see something and I just paint it, and it meh. I've never been, and I've always been really envious of a landscape painter. It's just, if they can, I collect landscapes. I have a house full of landscape paintings, some beautiful ones too. And it's something I don't possess, so I don't pursue it. I will tell you, there's a lot of landscape painters that can't paint animals. Thank goodness. I know for a fact of that too. Thank goodness. Right? I know. I see people who. That's another thing I tell artists: do not try every subject matter. Find something you do well and just do that, or expound on it, do variations of it, but just pick one thing and just really work that, really practice, really paint a lot of the same thing over and over again. And then you can get really good at it. Yeah. Like you do animals, but there's millions of species of animals. Yeah. So it's just endless. You have the world at your I do. I can paint whatever I want, and it's not just it's really not the subject matter so much. If it's a good painting. Right. If it's got good draftsmanship, good form, good rhythm, good color, good design. Right. It's got to be a good painting. Subject matter is super irrelevant. That's how I talk. I talk through the animals. It's a language. You learn it, it becomes fluent, and that's my voice. And early on, that's the thing. I was doing landscapes. I was doing little farms. I was doing that. I was like, what is it that how do I speak through art? And then when I first did, I remember the first painting I ever did that really had my style. It was a little 7-inch by 5-inch of a donkey. And I did it with just a few strokes. And it read beautifully. The color was, the values were correct. The drawing was good. It just from ways, it was just boom.
Right.
And it was just really, really edited, just economical and simple strokes. And I said, but they were thick strokes.
Right.
And the strokes, they kind of spoke. They kind of had a voice of their own.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what I call it sculpted strokes or brush strokes with feeling. I kind of talk through that brush stroke. And that's when I saw that little donkey, I said, okay, that's how I'm going to paint. And ever since then, I've just kept within that.
Do you wish you kept that painting?
Yes, it sold like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, you knew it was great. I mean, it's when you hit it, you know it. But I could see that would be one you go, oh, man.
I know.
It was because it was lightning in a bottle on that particular piece.
Probably. I don't know. That sounds good to me.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, but that's when I kind of knew that I wanted to have that surface quality.
Yeah.
It wasn't because before I was doing more of the thin application and just rendering everything out. And it's like, no, I want to use the brush stroke itself to speak.
How long had you been painting before that happened?
Well, that would have been 2004. So about 3 years,
yeah.
And pretty steadily for 3 years.
Yeah.
Pretty much, like I say, I do. I'm kind of a Monday through Friday person with painting. And that was in about 2004. And that's when I knew that's it. That's what I want to say. And so it's been all, I haven't looked back. So yeah, I just texture. I don't use a ton of paint, but I want my work to be painterly. I want that energy and that the spontaneous, the vigor that I feel for something that I'm excited about. I want that to show. And when I see my work in a gallery and I see it, my work's just kind of like vibrating. And I think that's what people like about it. They feel they feel my positive energy. I'm trying to put something positive in everything I do. Yeah. That happiness, that love of animals, that love of color, that love of brushwork, that love of oil paint.
Right.
I want that to really just jump out. And being in a gallery salesperson, you could painting that could sit there for 2 years. Someone would come in and like it, and they'd put their energy into it.
Right.
Everybody wants that painting.
Yeah, and sometimes somebody puts their energy in it, and the next 3 people all come in, and for some reason now all of a sudden everybody is excited about that painting. It's true. I've seen it.
Yeah, energy is a big part of art, both in the way the artist put it into the painting and the way it's received by a prospective collector.
Yeah, and you can do the opposite too. I mean, I've seen Fritz Scholder paintings that are so dark and emotionally charged. It almost rocks me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't almost even look at them.
You can feel what the artist feels.
Yeah, which is
if
good.
It's a good painting. Yeah, that's what you want.
That's what you want is emotional reaction.
Especially, you want to get some kind of reaction.
He'll do it. Yeah. On some of his paintings, there's some I'm just like, oh my God.
Kind of feels almost scary, yeah.
It's not as scary as I can just feel pain.
Feel pain.
Right? Or at least it affects me in that way. Okay. So, which would be one I would love to be able to have, but I don't think I could live with it. But that's what art's supposed to do. It's supposed to provoke
evocative,
to have some kind of emotional reaction,
right?
And it, happiness, joy, all those kind of
sadness,
things, whatever it
fear,
is, as long as you can live as a collector, can live with that type of thing, and
and that's what's so wonderful about art is because it's all subjective. I mean, everybody has different tastes, and every collection is different. It's just, it's like snowflakes. Nothing is the same. And it's art will never die, hopefully.
No. It's built into our DNA.
Yeah.
I think. So that's what makes us human.
That's right.
And not a whale. The whales are cool and very smart.
They are very smart.
But,
they don't paint.
But they don't paint. that we know of. So. All right. Well, any other questions, things you want to say? How about your website? Let people know your website.
SarahJWeberFineArt.com.
Instagram.
At Sarah Jane Animal Painter, and I just hit 1,500 followers. So I mean, the hard way. I didn't buy them. So
So follow her, click on her,
And that's a tough one, Instagram. I don't, their algorithms change all the time, and all of a sudden I'll put something out there, I'll get tons of likes and no comments, and I'll put really good painting and it will get no likes and tons of comments. So I don't get it, but it's a great platform for artists.
Yeah, and I think it's an important one. I think artists must be on these platforms.
They must be.
Yeah,
I fought them for a while, and I know a lot of artists who fought just the computer in general, websites in general for years, but it's the only way to get seen nowadays. Everything is on social media. People live on their phones. So yes, I am going to shamelessly plug myself like everyone else. And I know it probably gets old to people who are my friends, but I have to if I want to stay in the game.
It's a business.
It's a business. I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm tooting my horn, but I have to put those images out there.
Yeah. No, I think it's important.
Facebook, I have a lot of business has come my way from those platforms. Yeah. A lot.
Yeah. No.
The galleries are still very viable. They've always been the best thing for me. I praise people like you who keep this alive for us. I think art is best seen in person. You can feel its energy. You can see it in the frame. Right. I really think that's still the best road to hoe. But the social media is a big part of it, and I'm still learning it. But it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, it allows people also to get a sense of the person. Not just the art. It depends how much you'll share. But if you share yourself and what your process is, I think it also allows people to make a bond, and that's important in art. Quite frankly, I mean, the art's important, but it is you. Right. I mean, when you talk about how much energy comes from what you do and the paintings and how important they are to you, that will also can translate through video as well.
Right. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah.
Love your gallery.
Well, I've known you a long time.
I've known you a long time, Mark. We go back to 2001.
Yeah. It's been over 20 years.
So a long journey.
And your paintings are wonderful.
Thank you.
You were always good. You always had it, I thought.
It's just
But I look at them now and I go, oh yeah, she's working on
Thank you. I
working on her craft.
I keep painting.
Yeah.
And if you keep painting, you're gonna get better. So that's what
It is a skill set.
It's a skill set, and you hone it like anything.
Yep.
So there you have it.
All right, Sarah J. Weber.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you for coming on today.
Sure,
I really
my pleasure.
All right.